it's Hope at Crafty Hope and welcome. It is week 17 of my Crafty Hope prompts. If you are a returning viewer, you know exactly what I'm talking about, or you should. But if you're new, I want to go ahead and explain what Crafty Hope prompts is. It is a project I have come up with for myself to develop a prompt deck using a regular deck of playing cards and a list of prompts that I have. Each Monday, I am pulling 3 prompts from my list and altering my playing card. So one side is more of a decorative side, and the other side I'm calling my functional side because it has my prompts. And at the end of a year, and my year started at the beginning of October, so at the end of September, I should have a full deck of prompt cards that I can use. They're also very beautiful, but I can also use them by pulling them later, and I can pull like 3 of them and say, I'll take the first one. So I could do photo, red, and circles, or the middle ones or the last ones, or I could pull just one at random and use the prompts that are on there. However I want to do it. But that's my Monday project. On Saturday, I am using the prompts that I pull to create another project. This past week for week 16, I used the prompts photo, art crayon, and drywall tape to make a tag. I've done other things as well: art journal pages, junk journal pages, wall art, jewelry. I altered this can, things like that. So it's a multifaceted kind of project for me, and I'm hoping maybe next year, after October, I can start using this deck. If you want to play along with me, you're welcome to start now if you haven't started and make this your week 1, or just play along as you're inspired. You can pull your own prompts. I've got the full list of 156 prompts down below, or you can use the prompts that I'm pulling each week. If you like them, if they spark something, go for it. I just ask that you use the hashtag CraftyHopePrompts, and or I would love if you would tag me. I'm at Crafty Hope pretty much anywhere online. So Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, where else? Twitter are my main hangouts. So tag me, use the hashtag Crafty Hope Prompts, and make something beautiful, or just make something, because this is, for me, is about using some of my supplies. All right. I hope I've covered all that. If I have not, please ask away below or contact me any way you'd like to. I'm going to get to this week 17's prompts. So I'm going to put these things aside and open up my jar of prompts. So I'll explain each of the prompts as we go through them, and I would love to hear your suggestions if you know of any other things that might work for these prompts. So prompt number 1 is going to be metallic paint. Y'all, that makes me so excited because my nieces for Christmas gave me a little set of Liquitex metallic paints. And was it the year before? She gave me another set of, anyway, I've got lots of metallic paint. So that can be acrylic paint, or or watercolor paint. I think it can be metallic. You could do fine liners, or just about anything. If you've got like a metallic spray paint, ooh, that could be really fun to do something. Metallic paint. So that is prompt number 1. That's going to be super fun. And I'm not including, y'all, I always keep this thing of Liquitex acrylic ink on my desk. I'm not going to count that because it is an ink and not a paint. So, I'm just saying, I will put limits on myself, but you let it inspire you with the materials you have. If you do not have metallic paint and you only have metallic ink, use it. Go for it. Okay, prompt number 2 is going to be a border stamp. Y'all, I have my stamps, the cling stamps, separated into like letters and numbers, words, textures, images, and borders. So I've got a little Ziploc bag full of stamps that I consider border stamps. So they're like long, thin things. and I never use them. So that's part of the reason this is in here. So I will be pulling out my baggie of border stamps. But if you don't have a border stamp, you can make one, carve one. You can take some of what is like the fun foam and cut it with some like textured scissors and make that a border stamp. You can, what else would make a neat border stamp? If you have just a little stamp, you can stamp it along the border of something and make it a border stamp. Now, I don't have to use it as a border, I just have to use the stamp. So, you interpret this any way you want. All right, prompt number 3 is going to be botanical. That is pretty open-ended there, y'all. That can be just about anything as long as it is like leafy, nature related. You can go out into nature and grab a piece of a leaf and use it in a jelly print. You can use a stamp that's got a botanical in it. If you've got some of the, Tim Holtz has a set called Botanicals, you could do a like a wonky bit like Wendy Solganic has her wonky, are they called wonky bits? That she has a class that I took, and a lot of those are botanicals. Anything you've watercolored, maybe that's botanical. An image of flowers or plants or whatever, that's just include something botanical in your make. Okay guys, I am going to pull out my card for this week, and I'm gonna grab a couple things and I'll be right back. I have got a few options for these, and yeah, I'm going to tell you what I've got. First off, I've got that little set of Liquitex metallic paints that my nieces gave me. It's a 6 pieces. I don't know what color I'll be using. I'm always drawn to the gold, but we'll see. We'll see. I might pull some copper. I don't know. We're going to see what happens on here. I do have, like I said, other metallic paints, so if I don't think these will work, I may pull something else out. I do have somewhere a fine line bottle with some gold paint in it, so that could be fun too. Might just splatter. I don't know. I have metallic paints. We're good. Border stamps. I looked through all of my stamps, and I did pull out my little baggie. And y'all, I only have, because I've cleaned out my stamps several times, I have these 2 different sets of border stamps. This one is the Dylusions Clearly Borders Stamp and Luck. It has 2 botanical stamps in there. Super excited about that. But then I also have this Stampabilities Cute Border Mix. And I'm going to tell you, I don't usually label all of my stamps. These just happen to be labeled. I don't know how that happened. But this has a lot of different little tiny options. And I'm sure there are probably more border stamps in some other of my mixes, because I've got some that have like letters and numbers, and I just didn't feel pulling at that. And I did find a couple of just regular rubber stamps that I would consider border stamps. This one I love, that I picked up at a thrift store. This one I've had for ages, and then this one I think somebody gave me, but it's a little set of daisies. So I don't want to use for border stamp, but I have those. And then botanical, I pulled out a couple of options, and I could always draw a botanical on if I want, or I've got lots of like pressed flowers and things like that around. So I did get a couple of the Tim Holtz botanicals. I grabbed these 2 just because I don't know, felt like they would fit maybe on the card, and I didn't think I might use them in much anything else. And then I've got a couple that I have watercolored and doodled and that kind of thing. So it's a couple other botanical-ish options. So I am going to get started on this with probably some collage. And collage is indeed where I start. I've got my matte gel medium and a paintbrush, and these are just some pieces of dictionary paper that have been rust dyed, and I decided they were just the right size to stick down. I like to go ahead and put collage on these cards because it gives me a good base instead of that like laminated slick surface of the cards. I've mentioned before, other options would be to use some sandpaper and rough up your card, or just gesso over it, so you've got something that other things will stick to, because if I tried to paint right onto that card, it probably wouldn't stick. So yeah, and y'all look here, scraped some of my paper right off, trying to flatten things down, but I let that be an opportunity to add a few more pieces onto the top of this. I thought I was just going to do one flat piece of paper there, but no, we're going to go ahead and do some layering just to, yeah, I don't know. I've got all those pieces there. So I will put that down, trim everything up, and then do my best not to cut it. Y'all, I have several videos. I have cut my card a little bit trying to trim off the excess. So I'm going to go ahead and dry it just so that nothing gets too sticky since I did add the matte gel to the top. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm putting down just a little bit at a time so I can hopefully try to get it to stick better so nothing dries in the process. And that time I was being a little more careful. But since I did layer on the one side, I'll layer a little bit on the other side as well, just to get texture on both sides. Using these 3 prompts, I was fairly sure I didn't need, I don't know, a whole lot of anything. The metallic felt like it would add texture. I didn't want to make this overcomplicated. I knew how long that introduction had been, and I didn't. I was trying not to make this too long. It's still longer than I really wanted it to be. So yeah, here I am adding those extra little bit of layers. And like I said, this is just a thing for me because not knowing where I'm going to go next, I just want something that whatever I put down will stick to it. And I don't know why I chose the rust. I think it was just the first thing I found in my stash that was available. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on the the decorative side. And I pulled out some Distress Oxide and Fossilized Amber, y'all. I don't know what I was thinking. Well, I wanted the Fossilized Amber because I wanted a yellow because I knew I was going to put down some Payne's Gray ink next. And I thought maybe those 2 colors would blend together and do something kind of cool. And it doesn't really, but it was a good starting point. It was a good way to get something down on the card and just get going, whether it shows up or not. So, and the reason I wanted the Payne's Gray ink is because I knew I wanted those metallic paints. And for me, metallic paints always seem to stand out best on a dark surface. But I didn't want to just put black down. So yeah, I'm going with the Payne's Gray to give it some darkness. And like I said, I really wanted that Distress Oxide to kind of blend with the Payne's Gray. It doesn't. I mean, you can't make out that stamp at all. So once the Payne's Gray dried, it just wasn't near as dark as I wanted. And for me, I love my bit of coffee. So I've got some, and y'all, that is some super dark, I didn't water it down a whole lot, that I am just going around mostly the edges of it and then splattering on the inside. That's instant coffee that I reconstitute. And now I am going to come in. Oh, y'all, wait. This is my little jelly plate, and I've got some, I think it's Dylusions metallic paint. I think it's pale gold is the color, and I decided I was going to use my little jelly plate as a palette for my stamp because I wanted to use the metallic paint with my stamp. And I'm using this border stamp. That's one of those Dylusions ones that is a Botanical. So here I go. I'm going to put my paint down just like that, and y'all, I didn't look, I slowed this down. I put this in slow motion because what a goober am I. I didn't even put it on the jelly plate. I put it on the little plastic part that covers it. Oh, so I just scraped that off onto the jelly plate and I'm a mess. I am such a mess. So I will roll that out on using my brayer onto my little jelly plate, and with what's on the brayer, I just flip it over and put it on the backside. And y'all, there, metallic paint, backside, done. So, but with 3 in 1, I'm using metallic paint, border stamp, and Botanical with this one action here. So I'm going to cover this whole decorative side of my card with this stamp. It's you can kind of see it. And like I said, I knew I was going to go with the gold. It's pretty. I like the gold. There's something about it, especially in art journaling. It's not something I wear often, but yeah. So I sorted through the botanicals I had pulled out because that botanical border stamp didn't show up a whole lot. And I found this, it's kind of a goldish, probably a yellow ochre. I love yellow ochre, that I had watercolored at some point, and I'm using a micron pen, and I think it's 01 size, so it's tiny, tiny, just to give it a little bit of an outline. And I'll add the like center vein of these because that kind of echoes what was on that stamp. So it's, yeah, bringing that border stamp back in. And I'm going to look at that for a minute before I decide that I needed some lightening up on that card. So I grab it's like pearlescent white. I'll put it down below with this colors card. Well, I'll actually have probably a link to that whole set, but this is like iridescent white or something paint that I'm going to splatter just on my card to bring in just a little bit of lightening to it because it felt so dark. And, that's what I had wanted, but it was just too dark. And I found it as another opportunity to bring some of that metallic paint in. And I pulled out my Tim Holtz Metallics stickers and picked out this one that said Always and Forever. I don't know why. Pardon my head. I was trying to decide the placement of that. And I'm going to just stick it down right there and then use my matte gel to glue down that Botanical. I'm trying to think what comes next because I know what else I did to this card, but I'm trying to remember if I did it now or if I flip it over. So I am doing my best to get the matte gel on there. I'm keeping this super simple. And then, I did decide that I wanted a little more dark under there. So using a Stabilo All Pencil in black, I go under my sentiment and use a fairly tiny paintbrush to activate that. And, yeah, just get it a little bit more grungy and stand out. I thought about going around the leafy watercolor too, but I felt like I would end up muddying it up too much. Now, on my functional side, I do like to use all of the prompts as well, but maybe not as intensely. So, because it's more about the prompts on the functional side, like the words. So I'm going to cut down my words. I'm going to use another one of my watercolored leafy botanical things and just kind of put it off on the side. You'll see how I glue all that down. But first I wanted to cut down these words. I don't see any need in having all that excess paper around them unless I make it decorative somehow. Yeah. So I pulled out a stamp pad. This was probably not the best stamp pad, but first I wanted some splatters just to add a little more texture and interest to the background, and that Payne's Gray ink was still sitting there. So I'm going to splatter onto the card. You see, I tried to cover up my words that are sitting there, and I need to cover them up again so they don't blow away while I dry that. So I pulled out another border stamp. This one is just kind of a scallopy stamp, and I'm going to just use it as a border stamp and stamp the top and the bottom of the card, not the edges. I started to, but I was like, no, let me see how it looks with just the top and the bottom, and I really liked that. I didn't feel like it had to go around all the borders. I'll use my Oohoo glue stick straight onto my card, rather than getting all fiddly with trying to get it onto that Botanical. It just felt more right. It is going to slip and slide a little bit as I try to press it down, but I just felt it was easier to do that. Now I'm going to bring in the border stamp again. I'm thinking, you see that finger tapping? Apparently I do that when I think. I don't know that I do it. But I'm going to just stamp that border stamp onto one section here like that with the border facing down, and then I'm going to start gluing my prompts on top of them. And I really like this as a way to frame them up a little bit and make them kind of neat. So I'm going to repeat that for all three of the prompts. And then I'll grab a pen, I think it's just one of my cheap pens from the Dollar Tree, and write 17 on the upper right corner of the card. And then I'm going to be done with week 17, y'all. I really like both sides of this card. It's really pretty simple. I didn't do a whole lot of anything. I threw some paint and coffee, and yeah, I can't believe it took as long as it did to do it. But yeah, It's pretty awesome. All right. If you have any questions about this prompt project or the prompts that I have, or just anything about me and where I live, anything, ask below. I love to have a conversation with y'all. And if you like this, make sure you give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you can be reminded when my videos go up. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming by and spending this time with me. I appreciate it way more than you know. See y'all later. Bye.